to allow younger people to be able to run for office. They understand that they may not win the first year, but it will give them experience to win in later years.
Most people, your brain might not be fully developed. Some people are going to have fully developed frontal cortexes.
It's the people's choice. We need new things coming to our government because we can't have the same thing happening over and over and over again.
Why don't we just decrease it to 6-year-olds? After all, if we want 6-year-old elected, then we will. But what we have to remember is that 18-year-olds are legally adults.
Most of our schools here in the United Kingdom teach lessons about politics. So when they grow into an age of 18, when they are adults and ready to make mature decisions, they can vote.
It is very easy for parents to manipulate their children into voting for their political candidate. This is a fact that we need to know. It's going to be very hard for 16-year-olds. Parents can very easily tell their 16-year-old that they must vote for their political candidate.
The speaker made the point that these are rebellious teenagers and that they're good for nothing but that they're criminals. But then one of their speakers say that they're going to be manipulated by their parents. How can a teen be rebellious and be manipulated by their parents? These are two It's not only both. It says this is a double-blind scenario, so you should disregard these points.
Here's the thing. According to a Pew Research study, over 55% of them feel that they should not be able to vote. This is because they know how irrational their fellow peers are. They know that their fellow peers make good decisions.
How is it fair that people who are working the exact same as much, but the only difference is the age group? We can't be discriminating people for their age.
I have a question for you. Do you think it's fair that 16.4% of young people are unemployed?
It's the fact that 18 to 24-year-olds don't go through struggles. But I'd like to say that this simply isn't true. These people are going through the hardest struggles of their life. They're encountering debt. They go to university and still they have to make money to support their families. And it's vital that they get the pay that they need.
People going to university, they have so many expenses. They have to pay for university. They have to work towards buying a car. Some of them have families. And saying that they shouldn't have jobs is completely unfair. They should have the same national wage as the people who are 25 because they have so many expenses that they need to pay. Because if they can't pay them, they will not get the highly paid jobs that you were talking about.
The law requires that people are paid equally for the same work, so why are young people exempted from this? Thank you. You're looking for promise in the company. You're looking for new ideas that could possibly make your company flourish. Now, older people usually have had many experiences, which can be a good thing, but also can be a negative thing, because they have previous biases, and these younger people, just straight out of university, will have newer methods that will help encourage your company's economic growth.
We need to think about the future. And who are our future? These young people who are trying to make a wage so they can provide for their new families and their university. We need to support new jobs and new intelligence, and that comes from people who are in university.
All those for closing debate on this bill, please say aye.
Aye!
All those against closure of debate, please say nay.
Nay!
The ayes have it.
Constitute 17% of the workforce. Now this is a very large number, and doubtlessly illegal immigrants do make up some of this workforce. Do we suddenly take away their right to live in a safe and prosperous place? Because often, as my colleague mentioned, the places where they're coming from are not in the most desirable states. They can actually legitimately be fleeing from something. Do we want to deny them the right to a safe home? No, we do not.
Can't just let people come into our country and, take our citizens' jobs, because there are actually people who have come into our country through a legal process, and by letting these illegal immigrants come here too, it's just insulting the legal immigrants.
We are trying to give people a second chance. We are trying to make the world a better place. Because these people aren't just criminals. They're human beings, and they're fleeing from horrible situations. And I hope that one day you guys can understand how inhumane you are being.
I propose that instead of raising taxes to help pay for deporting people, we take the money out of the money we're using for the Brexit negotiations and just do a hard Brexit because
They're already here, they're already working, and even though they're illegal, they are making some contributions, and they've already started their new lives. So let's not make them start over again.
illegal immigrants do not take our jobs, which are really low income jobs like picking strawberries. If more immigrants keep coming into our country, they're going to be filling in the job posts that normal people take.
One of the delegates from the government side specifically referred to these illegal immigrants as subhuman. They say that UK citizens are normal, therefore illegal immigrants are subnormal, therefore subhuman.
What we must remember here is that there are legal processes for every single one of the cases that the opposition has brought up. Refugee from a war-torn country. I'm not sure if the opposition knows this, but there is a special status that refugees can claim called asylum seeker
A
status.
survey found that the majority of the people of the UK want a second referendum. So if you really want to respect the will of your people, you need to have a second referendum.
Misconceptions we've had throughout this entire debate. One is which that somehow we're going to be able to hold the second referendum. The bill text specifically states that it gives us the ability to remain in the EU. However, the text is very vague, so I don't think we should be voting over the fact that there's going to be the second referendum, but over the fact that people are going to be able to choose over what terms we do leave the EU.
If you guys are going to keep making people vote and vote and vote until you get the results that you want, it's not okay. I say that we take the results that we have right now, use these, and leave the EU.
There's now a lot more education and knowledge in the public sphere about what Brexit is, about the consequences, about how the EU common market would be taken away from us, about how 44% of our trade will be negatively affected.
All those for the debate say aye. Aye. All those against say nay. Nay. The ayes have it.
A large percentage of the workforce in the UK is immigrants. Now, I believe that every single one of those immigrants in the workforce deserves just as much health benefits or welfare benefits as you or me.
Why do benefits exist? Benefits exist because the government believes that there are certain things that a member of the population, regardless of citizenship status, ought to have.
If they do not pay for benefits, why should they get them back?
We must distinguish between rights and benefits. Like many people have pointed out, starting with Mary Ann Glendon, rights talk is ultimately a detriment to society.
One important thing we need to recognize in this debate round is the way this bill is right now is completely unacceptable. It's disadvantaging those immigrants who spent years trying to legally immigrate to the United Kingdom.
Both parties must, all parties actually, must support this bill with amendment, as the status quo doesn't solve as illegal immigrants come into this country without contributing to the system and take benefits. Thank you.
I'd like to motion to end debate on this bill.
That motion is in order. All those wishing to close debate on this bill and send it to committee for tomorrow, please say aye. Aye. All those against say nay.
Yay!
We must pass this bill, and I'll tell you why the EU relationship shall not be jeopardized. Because many EU countries and many other major countries have the same policy.
I want you guys to realize what would happen if we did not deport foreign criminals after they have served their time in UK jails. What this would lead to is it would lead to criminals who would commit repeated crimes after not being deported after committing the initial crime.
In order. All those wishing to close debate on this bill and send it to committee, please say aye.
this bill. And for this reason, I believe that the subcommittee for this bill is going to be essential to determining exactly which way we can all vote on this bill.
We have to take responsibility and make sure these armed forces guilty of these crimes are brought to justice. It is our duty.
The trauma, explosions after life, just trying to save their lives, themselves. In that trauma, you can make mistakes.
I think that is a lot of traumatizing happening. And I think that if someone has murdered an innocent human being, then they should go to jail for it, and we should not have sympathy for them because they murdered somebody.
We can't allow justice to have a time limit. Justice is forever, and we need to make sure that we protect everyone. Not just our armed forces, not just our wealthy, everyone.
Times change, and that the beliefs of people change with them. The beliefs of people back in, say, 1800 are not comparable to the beliefs of people now. So how can we move towards the future if our judicial system is so firmly entrenched in the past?
I feel that both parties should support this bill because we desperately need more judges to fill our vacancies and continue to ensure that our judiciary system is efficient and effective.
In my mind, what a judge should do is interpret the laws of the land to the best of their ability. And unless those change, I don't see why we're suddenly having new views for the people. Just because the people now like social media a lot more than they did 3 decades ago does not mean a judge needs to decide who's murdering somebody differently.
You know what else is a 20th century bias? Ageism. And by boxing older people out of being judges, we are further promoting these biases that you guys are trying to shut out. And we can't pretend that we are no longer the biased people.
If you vote with the conservative side, you're going to get more judges that are A, 4, 2, white, and 3, male. This is exactly not what we want.
Why 18 is the age for this bill is 18 is the age that A, you graduate high school and you become an adult, and also at 18 you're allowed to vote.
The people who wanted Brexit, most of them wanted a soft Brexit, and some of them wanted a hard Brexit. So if we give them a choice between it, we can actually represent our country. And then there's a huge amount who wanted to remain. And our job is to represent our country in the government and make the best decisions for them. And this is the best decision.
The clause that makes it more desirable is Clause F, stating that we're going to strike Clause C of the penalty section, which essentially makes another loophole for Northern Irish people to be punished differently if they transgress this action. This bill, which is simply unfair right now, and if this bill to be passed, and if this amendment was to be passed, we would strike that and make sure everybody's treated the same for committing the same crime.
I voted for 3.0 because I did not see this opportunity to correct the bill and this clause, and I think that everyone who voted for 3.0 should also vote for 1.0.
I hope everyone realizes that people should not be punished differently for doing the same thing. In this case, they should not be punished differently for live export of animals just based on the country that the animals are being exported to. So I hope everyone sees that and they now see that this amendment is essential to the bill.
What we have to trust is that people set aside their bias. Because why do we elect judges and why do we have teachers if they're always going to have bias?
The thing about being in school, oh yeah, I'm still in school, oh yeah, I'm still learning these classes. These kids have been learning about politics for a long time, even before these classes. These classes are more to help the people get even more involved, these schools get even more involved.
Probably the reason the conservatives do not want this bill to be passed is because the truth is a large proportion of young voters vote liberal, and that's just a fact. Thank you.
All those opposed?
Nay!
Okay, let's be real. Okay? You guys have to learn how to compromise. We're doing all of this stuff for we're implementing the test, we're not doing the original bill was 75 and you're done.
Old people don't know as much about technology, so I mean, I think if they don't pass the test, they just can't They shouldn't be able to judge any cases on technology, period.
I think that just putting an age limit destroys the purpose of the bill.
Judge has taken the health test before having a certain health problem, such as a heart attack. They should take the health test after that to understand if they're still in the right condition to judge.
If we have our judges going up until their mid-90s, do we really think that we're going to be giving an opportunity for younger judges to rise up? No. We need our younger judges to have more opportunity now that we're dealing with cybersecurity, now that we're dealing with more technology cases.
Now you guys have used this in your arguments against Brexit that people don't know what they're voting for. And I'm pretty sure less people in the UK know what the EEA is than they do what the European Union is.
We have none of the three things we are trying to optimize for this amendment. So I really don't feel like this is a worthwhile amendment to pass. Thank you.
I see no sense in being part of a union where you have just common policies when you can't actually act on them, because the ability to act on them with this free movement clause is what actually will benefit our economy and our nation the most.
Bats are considered by many to be invasive creatures, and if you don't want a bat live in your church or mosque or synagogue, then you shouldn't have to have them.
The bill does not specify what we're going to do with bats if they're found in a region after these bat surveys are taking place, which is why I believe that this bat survey clause has to be strucken or replaced with a clause that says it's only going to be if it's in a mile or two with a known bat habitat.
Is it right to let bats ruin buildings of public worship instead of simply relocating them to the countryside? Definitely not. Is it right to allow bats to ruin sites of cultural heritage instead of relocating them to rural areas where they actually live? Definitely not.
If companies are hiring older people because they have more experience, that gives young people a lesser chance of getting that experience in the first place.
People of the UK aren't all about money. They're not all greedy. They're not all people that say, oh, I'm gonna hire this one because I pay them less. They want to help the rest of the United Kingdom. And you have to believe in your people because you wouldn't be here if it weren't for them.
The first statement from the Conservative Party from Epson and Ewell. When Epson and Ewell, and I quote, said, these wages should be determined by the free market. The employers can pay the people what they want. So if I'm an employer and I want to pay my workers 1 cent, that's okay? Is that okay what you're saying?
In these farms, these massive marijuana farms, you do not know whether it's CBD or whether it's TBD unless you're testing every single thing that goes through.
100% CBD is still marijuana. You are treating it like it is just eating chicken or something.
It's simply inhumane to not allow people who are suffering and in pain access to things that will make them better.
Drugs are not bad. Drugs, I dare say, are one of humanity's greatest inventions. Because just think about how many ways that drugs have helped our society.
Essentially, a minor crime shouldn't be punished by just a deportation. People come here out of war-torn nations, like Libya previously mentioned.
I truly believe that we should be treating illegal immigrants who've done crimes as someone special. We should just be treating them as somebody who did a crime.
Remember that in the United Kingdom, when people have certain problems, say that they have some kind of mental disability or illness, or simply have been troubled to the point where they don't really understand the crime that they have committed, we don't necessarily punish them by putting them into jail or sending them out of the country.
Unfairly accused, which is a very good idea. I believe that this council will help prevent brave people in our military from becoming disgraced unfairly.
Justice is forever, and justice is for everyone. The families of innocent people who were killed by our armed forces, they deserve justice. Even if it happened many years ago, they deserve justice. We do not stop prosecuting a crime just because of a time limit.
Remember that many times the courts that use due process are mainly handling petty offenses, not giant war crimes that have deaths and punishment and people will actually be offended. Many times it's simply petty crimes and we need something more than just substantial evidence, a vague definition that is not suitable for such a large offense.
These may be our armed forces, but they have no excuse to even if they work very hard for our country. They're still taking lives freely, and just because there is a time limit to justice, which I don't think there should be, justice should be pursued.
We are not putting a time limit on justice. What we are doing is making sure that our veterans are not being bogged down in court processes that can take years. Thank you.
Almost every court case can be satisfactorily resolved within 20 years, because it's rare that new evidence comes up after that time period. And entropy increases, which means that we will, in the end, always lose information.
So the amendments that we passed yesterday made it so only CBD grade, 98% CBD grade cannabis would be allowed to be dispensed. And the reason we did this is because CBD grade cannabis can only be used for medicinal purposes.
The idea behind the legalization of cannabis bill has been proven as an effective way to deal with the affairs surrounding cannabis. Because partial legalization takes away some of the illegal mystique associated with cannabis and decreases the illegal market for it, which thereby decreases a lot of the crime that's associated with the trade in cannabis.
We must pass this. As a government and opposition, we have the job to do whatever we can to help our citizens. And this not only would take some of the cannabis market away from cartels and scammers, but it would also help people with medical purposes. I also want to remind everyone in this room right now that CBD cannabis cannot be used to get high. There is no way that you can get high using CBD.
Strain of cannabis, CBD, would actually get you de-addicted. It will not get you high, it will not get you addicted to THC cannabis, it is going to get you de-addicted. That is why this cannabis is so great. It does not actually cause problems, it helps people. So by banning this, you force people to go through underground means and to go towards the black market. In addition, by passing this bill, you get a greater understanding of where marijuana is coming from, and you also ensure that this is going to be coming from licensed growers and licensed sellers.
Quiet vote of 26 to 25 with one abstention. Subsection 1C passes.
By voting against this bill, you take out an entire generation that could have been productive members of society. So I implore every member here to vote for this bill.
They're 18. They have just become adults. They should not represent a large group of people when they barely know what they are talking about.
This bill clearly passes.
This representation of the youth will enlighten them and allow them to be more involved in politics for generations.
Need I remind you all that people older than 16 and 17, and in fact, much older than 16 or 17, voted for Brexit? I classify that as an extremely misinformed decision.
Studies have shown that the younger you start voting, the more likely you are to continue voting in your life. So why are we against this? This would help our country in so many ways.
I encourage you all to say no to this bill.
Most 16-year-olds are still children finding out who they are.
You know what?
and special guests, welcome to our closing ceremonies of the very first multi-day debate conference of the year. We're super excited to have spent the last 4 days in very dynamic debate. And if you had been here about an hour ago in the full session, you would not have been able to hear anything because the final voting for all the bills, or most of the bills that we were able to get through, were being voted upon.
I've been here 2 years, and this is my second House of Commons debate. And I've been both a Labor and a Conservative. So I can understand both sides, which really helped me in my negotiating.
One of the things that I found really interesting was how persuasion and convincing other people of your views applies in LCM, especially in conferences like this. This is because everybody has a character to play.
There are very few right answers in the complicated world we live in, delegates. From whether 16 and 17-year-olds should be able to vote, to whether Bats should be left alone to build their families in the dark, damp corners of churches in the UK. Leadership and communication can sway entire populations and groups of people from one side to another, and even back in some cases. And sometimes, as I've painfully learned in the past, a lack of communication and leadership can lead to little progress and trust.
As a leader, it's very important to get everyone on your party on board with your party's positions. I did this for this conference by sharing a document where we would all share our positions and talk about our differences in policy.
I will entertain a motion to close this session of the House of Commons. Yes, Leader of the Opposition. That is in fact in order. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We declare, the ayes have it. No nays. We will declare the session open. Thank you very much.